Are we good to go? Is the mic unmuted? Oh, great. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming along. No, truly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so thrilled to see people who have come along to this. I should warn you, this is a test stream. We're just testing out the equipment. I'm going to run through an activity, and then by the end of this half hour, we'll have some information about whether this works or not. So thank you again. Welcome. My name's Sean. This is the Rough Science Workshop, otherwise known as the basement at my parents' place. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be making some juggling balls. But before we get into that, a question that I like to ask everybody. What is science? What is it? When I say the word science to you, what do you think about? What pops into your head? Is it lab coats? Is it beakers, steaming bubbly mixtures and potions? For me, science is a way to answer questions. Just basically that. Science is a way to answer questions. It's not the only way to answer questions. It's not necessarily the best way to answer certain questions. But the scientific method has been very useful for us for the last 400 years to come up with basically answers to questions that are narrowing down to what we consider to be the truth. So today we're going to be looking at juggling balls. If you have come along to this workshop with some stuff, I put out a materials list so you can follow along. Or if you want to, later on, I'll tell you where you can actually look up the activity sheet for this and you can actually make this at home. So what we're going to need is, first of all, we need some balloons. I've got some all sorts of different colors here, but just a packet of ordinary party balloons. The next thing we need is some filling. Now, when you make it, you can choose one type of filling and just use that. I've brought along 3 different types of filling that you could possibly use here. Look, in all honesty, if you were going to be doing juggling, you could probably just get a set of rubber balls out of the drawer or something like that. Trouble is with those sorts of things, you mess up, they roll away. But the sort that we're going to make here, the filling is such that when it hits the ground, it's not going to roll or do anything. So what I've got is some rice. We've also got some flour, and you could perhaps even go for this sort of stuff. This is millet, or if you want to be very expensive, go for some quinoa. Now, the next trick is how do we actually get that stuff outside there into our balloon over here? Well, let's have a think about it. We could use a funnel in some way, shape, or form, I suppose. We could sort of pile the funnel into there and then maybe try to scoop some stuff into here and poke it in. If you're playing around with this, you might eventually discover that putting some air in here first can be handy. And then we can put the funnel in on top. Maybe then, if we got a scoop of this stuff, it would work then. And what you'll discover is it doesn't. So, see, I told you that would work. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use a bottle. The bottle that we're using has to be dry. So if you're going to be using a water bottle of some sort, make sure it's bone dry first. Next, what we're going to do is put about 3/4 of a cup of our filling into there. We started with flour, let's keep going with flour. So about 3/4 of a cup. Now, the thing about some of these fillings is that they'll jam up in the funnel. So getting a pencil or something to help move that filling through so it gets into the bottle down below. Just like that. Alternatively, too, you could see if you can locate a funnel that has got a wider aperture so that everything goes through okay. Now, once you've got all of the filling on the inside of that, same deal with our balloon from before. So we're going to take our balloon, put a bit of air into it, and give it a couple of twists. And then place that over the neck of the bottle. Now, if it tears like that one does, get yourself a fresh one. Live television. There we go. And then at this point, you just let it unwind. And once it's unwound like that, you can then take the whole lot and tip it upside down. Very important to stay holding onto the neck of the balloon like that. And then just allow that material to fall back in. Now, same problem as what we had with our funnel before, is that everything's going to get stuck right at the edge here. So just gentle shaking until it all falls down into the balloon like this. There we go. And this is where it's important to make sure that the bottle is dry first. Because if it's not dry, everything's going to get stuck in there and you're going to end up with a great big mess on your hands. More than what you might end up right now. Okay, next, and this bit you got to be really tricky and careful with because we're going to let the air out that's currently in there. Now, of course, we've also got a bunch of flour in there as well. And so you can't just let go of the balloon and just have everything blow around the place. So we just carefully allow that air to dissipate out. And as that rubber starts to constrict around the flour, it will start to, there we go, like that. Now we want to make sure we want to get as much of that air out as possible. So the flour is still sitting at the neck of the balloon there, so I'm just going to squeeze that as much as we can, get as much air out as possible. And that's our first step. Balloon, air, and flour. Oops. Now, at this point, what you could do is you could tie the neck of the balloon before putting on additional layers, which we're going to do in a second. Alternatively, you could just simply snip the neck of the balloon off. So it'll look a little bit like this. So our balloon like this, a good sharp pair of scissors, snip it off like that. And you'll see that our filling, our material is just on the inside, just like that. And here you can actually take a moment just to squeeze out a bit more air if you can manage it. Try and keep the material in there as much as possible. Okay, so next we're going to layer this up. And to layer it up, you just get yourself any other balloon. And we need to take off the neck of that balloon there, like that. And so the thing becomes a little bit like a swimming cap. So find the end of the balloon like this. And stretch it out and over the top of our first one, like this. There we go. And this is where it's important to have as much of the air out of that first one as you possibly can, because as you can see, more layers that we put on top of this, we're going to end up with a trapped air bubble. So make sure you've got as much air as you possibly can out of that first one before you start putting layers. Now, at this point, I would recommend at least 3 layers of balloons on top of your filling or material. So I'm going to do one last layer here with just one last balloon, and same deal as before. So we're going to cut the neck of the balloon like that, open it up like a swimming cap, and covering over our balloon like that. And there we go. That is one juggling ball. That's one. We need 2 more. So, those people who are following along at the moment at home, you can just carry on and keep doing what we just did. But now I'm going to do another 2. We'll start off with rice this time. So, same deal as before. Get our bottle, get our funnel, put about 3/4 cup. Like this. And the rice seems to want to flow a little bit better too. Seems to. There we go. Then we take our balloon that we want to fill up, put a little bit of air into it, twist it, stretch it over the mouth of the bottle, let it unwind, and then shake that stuff. I gotta admit, the rice flows a lot easier. Now, we let all that air out. And with the rubber constricting around the rice, it has this very peculiar kind of stress ball kind of feel to it. Okay. Next step, snip off the neck. And same deal as before, you can sort of see the rice sort of sitting there. If there are any adults at home who are slightly panicking at this moment, yes, feel free. Tie a knot in the balloon rather than actually snipping the neck off. But I'll show you one other little trick that we can do to make sure the whole lot stays together. Another balloon, snip the neck off, make it like a swimming cap, and stretch it out over the top. Like that. So that's one layer. Give it a squeeze, make sure some of that air is all out. And then we'll put one final layer on. Take a balloon, snip the neck off. And here's something that you could do. Look, that is pretty well contained at this point. If you want to, you've snipped the neck off. We could snip off, say, the other end. So we end up with another hole at the other end. So it becomes like a swimming cap at one end, but it also has another hole, so that when we stretch it down over the top of this, we end up with some cool colors and patterns. So you could actually experiment with the way that you cut holes into the ball here and have different colors poking through. Personalize your juggling ball. There we go. That's with the rice. One last one. And this time we're going to use the millet. So once more from the top. We need a balloon. We need our filling. Let's get our bottle. And into the bottle, we're going to put our 3/4 cup of the millet. Like that. Ooh, like sand through an hourglass. Now, balloon, let's twist it, stretch it over the neck of the bottle, and then up the other way. I gotta admit, that was very satisfying. And it was also the easiest of all the fillings. So, adults at home, if you're looking to do this with smaller kids, maybe go for the round of millet. Letting out all the air again. And let's squeeze it, get as much air out as much as we can. There we go. Okay. Next, snip off the neck. And I mentioned before tying a knot in the neck, or you could do something else, which is this. So using another balloon, we cut off the neck and we stretch it like a swimming cap over the top. Like that. And you could make sure that the whole thing is properly stuck down by using a little bit of glue. Now, here's the trouble though. The glue that I would recommend using in this case would be something like super glue. Now, super glue is strong, like really strong. It's very effective. It can be quite brittle in certain circumstances, but it's also very good at getting yourself stuck to the juggling ball, or to the table, or to the furniture, the cat, yourself. So basically, if you are going to be using super glue, it is definitely an adult-only thing. Make sure there's an adult who can help you out. And what we're doing is you can just put a few drops of super glue just around the lip of the balloon here, like this, so that it seals it all together. Now, strictly speaking, you don't really need this, but if you're worried, if you're concerned that the balloon's going to come apart, showering flour all over the good couch, then a few drops of that will help seal it together. Okay, we need one more layer on top of that. We've gone red, green, blue. Let's go blue, because they are, after all, the primary colors of light. Okay. And there we have it. Our 3 sets of juggling balls. Now, a couple of words of warning about the contents of these, particularly if you've got pets at home. These things smell delicious. And if you've got a small pet, a small dog, for instance, a belly full of dry rice is extremely dangerous to a dog. So make sure you keep these. Once you've finished practicing with them, keep them out of the reach of any dogs or other pets that you might have around the house. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so you've got your juggling balls now. Now we need to work on our actual technique of juggling. Well, for this, I meant to do that. For this, what we're going to do is we're going to think about how the human body learns. And how the human body learns is, well, if we think about what we as human beings do when we're moving our arms and our hands, anyone who has learnt any kind of sport will know that if you've ever been out with a tennis racket or a cricket bat, that it takes time and patience to get better and better at a skill. One of the things that we're going to need to do is just to, there's this word that people use called muscle memory. That's incorrect. Our muscles do not have a memory, but we have nerves that are connected to our muscles that we use to control our movement. And what we can do is start to practice our brain to be able to cut down on the decision time that it takes in order to be able to send a signal down to down our nerves to things like our hands. So in this case, we're going to start with just one ball, and you're going to practice one solitary movement, which is this: taking the ball, putting your hands about, if you imagine having your elbows by your side, about 90-degree angle like this, and you're just simply going to throw the ball from one hand to the other hand. Just one ball at this stage, like that. How high? Try and keep it around about eye level or so. Try not to go too ridiculously high. Try not to go too ridiculously low. Keep it about eye level. One hand to the other hand. And your hand is doing a little circular movement like this. So as I throw it to this hand catches it, throws it over to the other hand. Throw and catch and throw and catch and throw and catch. And right now, we're not going to do it for the amount of times that I'm going to suggest to you, but when you're doing this later, you're going to do this 100 times. Just 100 times, back and forth. Just like that. And it doesn't matter if you miss. It doesn't matter if you don't get it right that time. Just keep doing it over and over again, about 100 times, trying to make each throw as perfect as you can manage it. That's one ball. Once you've done that 100 times, you then move on to doing it with 2. Now at this point, a lot of people go, oh yes, 2, I know how to do this. And they start doing something like this, where they're passing one ball to the other hand like that, throwing one over, passing over like this. No, do not do that. That is completely wrong. What we're going to be doing is throwing one to the other hand exactly like we did with step 1. That is the throwing action that you're going to be doing, and you're going to be doing this throwing action for all of the balls. So what you need to do is throw one up, and when it gets up to about eye level here, that's when you're going to throw the other one up. So at some point you're going to have 2 passing each other, and you're going to need to then try and catch this other one, having just thrown this one. So it looks a little bit like this. Throw, throw, catch, catch. Throw, throw, catch, catch. And so on. Throw, throw, catch, catch. And that's actually doing it. I was starting with my right hand and then catching this one with my left hand here. Once you've done that a few times, I need you to swap over and try throwing it starting with your left hand. So throw, throw, catch, catch. And again, it's full of stuff, so it won't roll away too far. Throw, throw, catch, catch. Throw, throw, catch, catch. Again, try and get them each throwing the same way, and around about eye level, that's when you throw the other one. Throw, throw, catch, catch. You're going to do that 100 times. Once you've done that 100 times, you can bring in the third one. And this is where we're going to bring it all together. So 2 in one hand. So one at your fingertips like that, the other one in the palm of your hand, and the other ball in this hand. Starting with the balls that you've got 2 on this side, you're going to start with 1 and throw that. Same deal as in step 2, we're going to be throwing this one when this one is about eye level. When we throw this, we need to then get ready to catch that one. And then when this one's traveling over here, we then need to throw the next one, get ready to catch it, and so on, and so on, and so on. So it will look initially a bit like this, because you're going to need to practice. Once you practice a few times, and it doesn't matter if you throw it, or if you overdo it, or underdo it, you're just going to keep practicing it until you get that rhythm. So throw, 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 and so on, like that. Throw, throw, throw. A couple of other little suggestions for you. Suggestion number 1 is try and keep the balls traveling at around about eye level like this. I found when I was starting off juggling that I would start to, my throws would get smaller and smaller. And so just try to stay relaxed and keep those balls traveling up to around about that high. Once you get that, it gives you plenty of time for your hands to get to the right spot. Second thing is that when I've done this activity in the past, sometimes I've seen people who just pick these up and go for it, and they get it first time. And then I see other people who don't get it first time, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's why we're going to practice, and you're going to do that 100 times. 100 times. The reason for that is that we are training our brains in a whole new skill. If you've never juggled before, training our brains in a whole new skill to be able to catch and put your hand in the right spot. It's a brand new thing that your brain has never done before. There's a couple of things going on with our brains while we're doing this. And one of those things is something called reaction time. For this, let me show you something. What I want you to do is imagine human body like this. Very accurate human body. You'd find that in Grey's Anatomy. Somewhere at the top here, we have a brain. Again, very accurate brain. We've got some eyes. And we've got limbs, which does actually make him look like some kind of weird hand monster, but I digress. Now, what I want to do is just think about reaction times for a second. Imagine this. if we are seeing something with our eyes here, like for instance, there's some sort of small dog just over here, and you want to go and pat the small dog. But the small dog is going to be very, very quick. So you need to very quickly reach your hand out. Your eyes are going to be seeing that small dog. You're going to think to yourself, your brain is going to do a little bit of processing. And that little bit of processing is then going to send a signal down to the muscles in this arm in order to be able to reach out and do that. And so there are some nerves that, if we followed the signal from our brain, will go down our spinal column. There is, inside our spine is our spinal cord, which is basically, think of it as the NBN for the rest of our body. And we're sending a signal, and at some point the signal shoots off down a cluster of nerves that eventually end up to the nerves that send signals to things like our muscles in our arm and our hand. Now, here's the thing. Our eyes see the dog. Our brain is going to take time thinking and deciding what we want to do. And then that time, the signal is going to take time to actually travel down the nerves themselves. All of that time is something called our reaction time. And our reaction time, for human beings, there is a speed limit. We cannot possibly beat a certain speed of reaction time, because no matter how quick we can make our brain make the decision to do something, it still takes time for that signal to actually travel down from our head, down our nerves to our hands to actually reach out. In fact, you can do a little bit of a trick knowing about this. You can get yourself a $5 note and then get yourself a willing volunteer. Thank you very much. Now, our willing volunteer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose a challenge to our willing volunteer. The challenge is this. If you catch this $5 note, you can keep it. Admittedly, this is coming out of your pay packet. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to hold the $5 note about level with the fingertip and thumb here, around about there. And any second now, I'm just going to let go. And the moment that our willing victim sees this starting to drop, that's when they can start to grab hold. But any time before then, they're not allowed to. So, any moment now, I'm just going to let go, just like that. Okay, doesn't matter. First go, let's try it again. Best of 3. You ready? Ready, set. Maybe one more time. He'll get lucky at some point. Okay, give him a round of applause. Hey. That's because our reaction time, it takes time when we actually see this $5 note starting to fall. It takes time for us to make the decision, and it takes time for that signal to travel down to actually grab hold. And in the case of that length there on the $5 note, we can't beat that at all. You'll find if you try this experiment out with anybody around you, unless they're kind of randomly trying to grab hold and happen to, by luck, grab hold of it, you'll find that most human beings will not be able to catch that in time. So give that one a go. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody at home, sitting on the feed and checking this out, thank you so much for coming along. I am really, really indebted to you to coming along and checking out this stream. A couple of things before I finish up. One is, there is an activity sheet for this, which is available at the Rough Science website, which is roughscience.net. And if you hit the link for live workshops, you'll find a worksheet for today's activity. So if you've missed out on how to do something here, you'll find how to make the juggling balls and how to go about beginning to training yourself on how to juggle. If you're able to get juggling down pat, drop me a line. Let me know how you went. Also, we've got the chat open here. If you've got a question right now, by all means, put something in there in just a moment. One final thing is that this workshop I would like to run over the Victorian school holidays. So probably in the second week of the Victorian school holidays, we're going to see if we can get a few more of these up and going. If you'd like more information on that, go to the Rough Science website, roughscience.net, and there is there's the live workshop page, which any new information will appear there. So be sure to check that out. All right, how are we going, Tom?
No questions so far.
That's fine. We'll leave it there. Everybody, thank you so much for coming along, and have a great day.